back to Around Town with Linda. My name is Linda Malash, and today we're talking with Chelsea resident Mort Dunlop. He is a retired electrician, part-time magician, and in honor of Father's Day, I'm talking to my dad. So, Dad, start out by telling me, why did you decide to become an electrician?
I don't think that I decided it, which was probably a kind of a sorry statement. I got out of high school, and for some reason, I don't know whether it's because I lacked encouragement to go on to college, or whether there was an extreme lack of money, which there was, of course. There would have been no money whatsoever. And my grandfather had been an electrician for many years. Actually, he's my step-grandfather. His name, we called him Pop. And he offered to start me as an apprentice. At the time, I was working in a restaurant, and I was making about 90 cents an hour. Yeah, I think it was. And then,
Wow.
I was going to make, like $1.50 an hour as an apprentice. It sounded really good to me. And I knew I had to do something. And I didn't really have a lot of ambitions. I don't know why I didn't.
Okay. Well, I don't think kids in those days were kids really encouraged to go on to college that much from there, were they?
I don't think quite as much, although I think quite a few of the graduates of the school I went to went on to college. It was Catholic Central. And Catholic Central students were, it was a college preparatory courses you took. This is what you had to take.
Okay.
You had no other choices.
Right.
You couldn't take just, shop and things like that. So a lot of them, I think, went on to college. Yeah, probably the majority of them did.
Okay. All right. How many years were you an electrician? How many years did you work?
I worked for 40 years.
Wow.
And I would have gone further if I could have continued to do the work. It's very physical work, and things happened to my neck, and things happened to my sight, and I took the advantage of getting my retirement. I was eligible for it, so I took it when I was 60 years old.
I remember when I was a kid, and me and my other sisters, we used to worry with you being an electrician that you'd be electrocuted. Did you ever have a time, what was, I guess, the most dangerous situation that you ever faced in your years as an electrician?
I think there's more danger of falling off of something than there is in getting electrocuted, although some guys did get hurt. And one of the big dangers is a burn. If for some reason the electricity goes to ground and there's a big flash, and you get it in your eyes, and your eyes will feel gritty for a while, like there's sand in there.
Oh, okay.
I've had a couple of those, and a couple of just plain shocks. And you realize how powerful electricity is when you get into voltage that's more than household voltage, and it just grabs you, and your heart stops, and afterwards your heart is beating very fast. So you really get a respect for it, and of course you try to be safe all the time, obviously. Okay. All right. Yeah.
It kind of just surmising, looking back, if you weren't an electrician, as you look back, you say, you know what, I wish I would have done this. Is there anything you think that if I was an electrician, maybe I would have done this?
I've thought about that. Yeah. I've thought about that, and I really can't say that there was anything in particular I would have done, but I still have the feeling that what I did do wasn't right for me exactly.
Yeah.
It still wasn't right for me, although I was good at what I did, because, as you know, I felt that anything worth doing was worth doing right. Didn't I say that to you before?
You said that over and over again, and now I say that to my kids.
Or whatever, right? Yeah.
I remember it specifically for sweeping the floor, yeah. So I'm a much better floor sweeper now than I was when I was a kid. Let's talk about when you were a kid, growing up in the city of Detroit. So what are your memories of that?
Well, I grew up in the northwest part of Detroit, and it was very rural at the time out there. Our road was a gravel road, much like it is now around here. Okay. And it was farmy, and we lived in a very small house that my dad built, and built it for like a couple of $1,000s. He was a carpenter. And it was a 2-bedroom, and just get this, just one bath home. Yeah, we survived one bath. But I guess we were in the lower socioeconomic strata, I suppose you might say. Although when you're that age, you don't realize it. No. It just, I didn't think of it in that sense. I thought that we were rich enough till we got a little older, and of course I
Okay.
realized we weren't.
Right. So tell me about your family, so sisters, brothers.
I have an older sister, Joan, and her younger brother, Greg. And Greg got the normal name, and I got the funny name.
And what's the story there?
Well, I understand that Morton is the maiden name of my father's mother.
Okay. Okay. All right.
The last name of my father's mother.
Okay.
And that's how I got the name. It was to please the old man, I guess. That's what my mother claims now. She says I had no choice.
Okay.
So that's why I got it. But I think my mother was kind of obsessed with M's, you know. Her name is Mildred, and her sister's name is Mabel, and her brother's, yes, yeah, is Melvin is her brother's name.
Right, okay.
I don't know. But I hated the name, and I don't know why I didn't change it.
Yeah. For a while there, you were going to go with your first initial and your middle name, which is James.
James, yeah. And James Morton would have been a better thing.
Okay. All right.
I think. But I guess I don't know why I didn't change it. I don't know why. It gets entrenched, you know, and you start thinking about, wow, think of all the things I got to change now,
Right.
you know, and I don't know why I didn't do it.
You and your brother Greg, I remember hearing stories about how you used to sometimes get in trouble. Can you tell us any of those stories about like when you and Greg would like be mischievous?
Well, you know, my mother, after my dad was gone, my mother and my father divorced, and I was pretty young. And so we were left alone quite a bit of time because my mother was working. And we used to mock fight,
Okay.
you know, and we take the knives from the kitchen drawer and chase each other around, things like that.
Did you ever get hurt?
No. We, you know, just like kids do. We never really hurt each other.
Okay.
But I just the other day I heard something. You know, I think that a lot of the memories that I've repressed about my father. My father was probably an alcoholic, and he was. And my sister just told me the other day that he was a maniac, you know, and that he chased myself and my brother out of the house with a gun. Now, see, I don't remember that happening, but apparently she does.
Okay. It is funny too when you can black out stuff like that. Now your sister Joan was I mean is obviously older than you, or she remembers
older than I am.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So she remembers more than I do.
Okay.
And I did do inexplicably some bad things. Upstairs, they had an attic in this house. It was a two-bedroom bungalow with an attic you could finish. And my dad had put up the drywall, but that's as far as he got. It wasn't painted or anything. And one day, for some reason, I took a hammer and made hundreds of holes in that drywall with the hammer. You know, it went through so easily and so nicely and left such a nice round little hole, you know. Why I did that? Well, he was rather angry.
I'm sure.
I hid in the bathroom with the door shut and locked, because it had a lock in the bathroom. And I could hear him yelling out there or something about, I'm going to kill him, you know.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of fighting in our household, a lot of trauma and that.
Yeah.
But I do have I have a lot of fondness though for where I grew up and my young life there, even though there was these problems in the family.
And it was very, I think, well, I don't know if it's more unique back then to have families split up in terms of divorce was much less common then,
Yes.
certainly than it is now. And for Grandma to be a single mom all those years, I think was a little bit unique and different too. So did you guys have to help out around the house a lot more as a result?
Yes, I became the cook,
Okay.
and maybe that was the
That's
start
smart.
of what I do now. I cook now.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I benefited from that too, because you did a lot of great cooking when we were kids too, which we'll talk about in a bit. You were also really close with a lot of the neighbors on Fielding in Detroit. Can you remember any of those stories?
Oh yeah. The neighbors, the neighbor kids were all in my gang, you know.
Okay.
Sure, you know that I got my interest in magic from one of the neighbors.
Okay.
The neighbor lived 2 doors away. His hobby was magic,
Okay.
and he had a stage in his basement, a homemade stage, and he used to have a levitation trick, and he had a guillotine trick, you know, and the big blade would come down and slice a cabbage in half, and then then somebody would put their head in there, and the blade looked like it went through them, of course, and their head was still there. Most of the time, it was his wife that volunteered for this. I think he had a hard time getting people to volunteer to stick their head in there, you know.
What was his name?
Al Weber. Al Weber. And then his son Joe was a little younger than I. Then we started putting on our own magic shows, like in the backyard, with a sheet on the clothesline for a curtain and that kind of thing.
Do you remember any of the tricks that you did when you were little like that?
Yeah, we had a cardboard box, and we had all these wooden swords, and Joe would get in there, and then we pushed these swords through all these different angles, and as if he couldn't possibly be in there. Of course, he was. And but from the outside, it looks like he's a pincushion,
Yeah, right.
But we had it all planned out, There'd be one going under here, and one going in here, and one going by his face here. And
Wow, all right. So it wasn't really like an illusion per se. So he really was in there,
it
and
was
you were
an
just
illusion in that it looked like he couldn't have been in there.
Okay, all right.
Sort of.
All right.
At least to us, anyway, And I had a few tricks that I bought from a novelty house, one of those kind of places that had the whoopee cushions and the black gum and that kind of stuff. And they also had little magic tricks, so I had a few little things like that.
And now, as an adult, you have your own basement and you have your own stage in the basement.
Yeah, sort of a stage, yeah.
It's a great stage. So tell me, what kind of use does a stage get these days?
Well, I thought it would really be good for the resale value of the house, Everybody wants a stage in their basement, don't they? Well, for some magic tricks, it's good to have a stage. I like to build them. I've built a few. None of them were my original ideas. They were already designed. So
you're talking about building tricks now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. What are some of the favorite tricks that you've built?
Well, that I built. There's what they call a bunny box. You put the bunny in it and you take it all apart and he's gone. Okay. Although I don't have a real rabbit, it would be more effective if I had a real rabbit. Who wants to take care of a rabbit just for one trick? And some other things where objects appear where it was supposedly empty, that kind of thing.
All right. Where do you perform some of your magic these days?
Well, mostly just when the family comes over. I haven't done any kind of a gig for money. I did it over at the grade school once. I remember the kids were pretty young. Yep. Well, I think a couple of times at the grade school. Once in Canton, I did it too. Yeah, that was fun for the kids.
I was going to say it's something that the kids always say. The kids call him Papa, and that's one of the first things that they've always asked for is, "Do you have a new trick?" And they love it if they can participate in the trick. One of the ones that you used to fool us with when we were little is you made Mom levitate. Can you tell us about that and how that came about?
Well, yeah, I guess I've already told everybody how we did it.
Right.
So it's not really a real magic trick, but for you kids it was, I think, because you were young, and I think you were quite impressed with the whole thing. Yes. But it's something that I saw in the Three Stooges, That's where I got the idea.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
And you get some shoes and some sticks, and you put the sticks in the shoes and you hold them out there like that, and you got a sheet that comes over and covers up these sticks. So all you see is the shoes like this, and Mother's head is way back, and so it looks like she's floating, And we didn't tell you how this was done for a lot of years, So it was pretty impressive, but I got away with it.
Are you pretty good at keeping secrets? Because a magician pretty much has to keep those. Are you pretty good at doing that?
Yes, and I think that's also one of the reasons why I got into magic, because I got so obsessed with knowing the secrets, And of course, once you know the secrets, then it's no fun anymore. Although I still like to go to magic shows and see. I don't know all the secrets. That's for sure. They do things that I don't know how they do it. All I know is that it's a trick. It's a gimmick. There's something there. So I don't know. I don't really know why I do it. It's a performance art, and I'm not a natural performer. I don't practice much like I should, I suppose. If I want to be good, if you want to be good, you got to practice a lot, like any kind of a performance.
Sure. Well, we're hoping that you'll show us a few of your magic tricks in a little bit.
Yeah, well, a couple here, yeah.
Cool.
All right, well, here's a coin trick. And can you see these coins?
Mm-hmm.
We have a Kennedy $50,
Okay.
and this is a British copper or penny.
Okay.
And what I want you to do is hold out your hand, the palm up, and I'm going to put this into your hand.
Okay.
And then what I want you to do is close your hand up on this, okay? Got it?
Got it.
All right. Now put your hand behind your back
Okay.
and find the smaller of the coin. The copper coin's a little smaller. The copper coin's a little smaller than the $50.
Okay. All right.
Find
I
the
got
one
it.
that's smaller,
I do.
and let's see it. Let us see it.
Hey!
What's a quarter? Oh, really got the
How'd
other
you
end.
do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It turned.
Yes, that's one of the things magicians do.
Okay,
They
cool.
transform one thing into another.
Excellent. I don't know how you did that.
Of course not.
Cool. Oh, how did you do that?
All right. Well, yeah, this involves a sword. This is the bloody part of being a magician here. I think that that's one thing about magicians. There's a dark side to magic, you know. And if you ever notice, a lot of times it involves females in peril.
Yes.
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 It was something that appealed to me when I was a young person too. I remember that, you know, saving the damsel who was in distress, you know. Or yeah. So anyway, this is called the sword through the neck, and this is where we have to. Sometimes we have to call a hospital after this. They're getting tired of us coming in there. But for this, we're going to put this collar around Linda's neck, and for this we need some help from my lovely assistant, because I can't do this by
Here comes the
myself.
lovely assistant.
Yes.
You won't let him hurt me, will you, Mom?
Not real bad.
You will take this apart.
Mm-hmm.
Got these lovely hinges on it that they must have taken off some furniture somewhere.
Yes, here we
I
go.
suppose.
Okay, now we'll get your hair. Yeah,
Now-
you hold your hair up.
It has to
What
be.
hurts is getting your hair caught
It
in.
has to be
Okay.
this away, like this.
Oh, it
Okay,
does.
assistant?
Okay.
Oh, did you forget how to do this?
I forget,
I
yes.
haven't
Oh.
forgotten.
Oh,
I
How to
hope not
do this.
either.
oh my.
All right, let's hook the top ones. You don't have her earring in there, do you?
I hope not. There we
Now we gotta
go.
get the bottom.
Oh,
right.
yeah, okay. Yes.
Go take your
And
head
of course, to assure the person, I've done this to you before, I've done this 100 times to all of grandkids by now. But anyway, to assure the person that it's really a sword, you always go like this and you say, you say anything? And you get that good reaction like that. And that kind of reinforces the whole thing. You sure you feel something there? Oh dear.
Uh-oh, something went
Well,
wrong.
I don't know. Let's see if we can get it. Well, maybe that shoved real hard.
Yeah.
Or quick.
Do it fast.
Or
It
something
won't
like
that.
hurt as
Fast.
much. It doesn't
Or-
hurt as much,
or-
honest.
Oh dear.
There, see?
Is it coming out over there? Can we see? Oh, move your
there.
hand.
Oh, there
Move
you
your
go.
hand so we can
There
see that.
go. Yes.
Yes.
Woo!
Whoa, the sword through the neck.
Back
Illusion.
and forth, back and forth. You may have a sore throat
Oh.
tomorrow, okay?
Another one of the basic things that magicians do is penetrating a solid with another solid. You know,
There you
that's just
go.
one of the things they do. There's only about 10 things they do, but there's like thousands of tricks built, variations around those 10 things. And that's one of them. But that was,
There we go.
see, everything is just fine.
That's all.
Almost. There you go. Just a little blood. There you go.
Yes.
There. Oops.
Your assistant in your magician tricks is Mom. Can you tell me about what's the story of how you met Mom?
Well, it was in the 50s, the wonderful innocent time in America in the 50s, still celebrated, you know. And our prime motivation and our biological imperative was finding other girls to impress, you know, to conquer, to find a date for whatever. And we used to go wherever there was a gathering at different churches. They'd have them.
Oh, okay.
Youth clubs.
Okay.
So I went to the youth club one night with my buddies, and Rita was there, your mother, and you know, as usually what happened, there'd be a group of guys and a group of girls. They'd all be in two knots, you know,
Okay.
and then it was the challenge for the moderator or the guy in charge to get them mixing up a little bit, you know, to start them dancing. You know, the dance floor would be empty. So they put a circle of girls on the inside, a circle of guys on the outside. And one circle would go in one direction, the other circle would go in the other direction. When the music stopped, you would dance with the person that's opposite you. Well, before that happened, I had already seen your mother. I was scoping her out. That's what we're doing. We're scoping each other out. And my buddy says, you know, I asked what he knew her, and I found out what her name was. And apparently she was scoping me out too, unbeknownst to me.
Okay.
And she arranged with the chaperone to stop the music when she got opposite me.
I didn't know that.
We were star-crossed lovers. And from then on, everything happened. I drove her home that night in my super cool car.
Wait, what kind of car was
It
it?
was a 49 Mercury,
Okay.
black.
She had no hope?
Shining it, yeah, very shiny. Yeah, so yeah, after that, you know, got the phone number and we were off. We went to a couple of proms together, and her prom and my prom.
Okay.
And then we separated for just a little while I went in the Coast Guard.
Okay.
And she wrote me letters every day. And I think it was during that time where we never really said it, but I think we knew we were going to get married. There was never a moment when I got down on one knee and I went out and bought a ring, you know, and said, you know, will you marry me?
Okay.
It just went without saying. I guess we just said we're getting married.
All right. What is it that you think that makes your relationship work with Mom? So you guys have had this very positive relationship for all these years. What is it you think that makes you guys work as a couple?
Well, I think we really are. You know, people say we're soulmates, and I think that's right. I think we are soulmates, and I think it works because we came from a very similar background, and we're very close in age, and we just shared a lot of the same memories through the years. You know, I think that was part of it. I think that really she's, in a lot of ways, we're very much alike. I don't think that opposites are a good thing.
Okay.
Myself,
Okay.
I think we're very much alike.
Okay. And what's one of the things that you love the most about Rita, about Mom?
Well, there's a lot of things I love about her. There's a lot of things I love about her. I think she has a very, how do I say? She has a very good instinct for doing the right thing. She's just very easy to live with. Sometimes in contrast to her, I seem quite unreasonable. So yeah, she's a good woman.
And now I'm talking with Rita Dunlop, Mort's wife of, we decided, Mom, like 48 years?
It will be 48 years in September.
Okay. Dad told us the story about how you met, and it had a little wrinkle in there, which I didn't know about. So why don't you tell me the story of how you met Dad from your perspective?
Well, let's see. I was at St. Gerard's with a couple of girlfriends. This is, senior year high school. Actually, it was April the 30th. Okay. I mean, who's keeping track? Okay. And I saw this good-looking guy across the hall. And
wait, what did Dad look like then?
His hair was kind of long, like guys were wearing it then, and sideburns.
Okay.
Just sounds so corny, but okay. Yeah, he did. He looked like Elvis, and I liked Elvis. So I asked Mr. Audette, who was in charge of the dance, if he would arrange that I could dance with him during one of the mixers. And he did. We did this thing where we had 2 circles and walking around, and he stopped the music when I was next to Dad. And that was the start of it.
All right. And that's the part I didn't know. I didn't know you had arranged it. I thought that was just by accident.
Oh, heck no. No, I was quite aggressive.
All right.
For me. Yeah.
Did you know at the time that he had also been kind of checking you up before, or didn't you know that?
I didn't know it at the time.
Okay.
But he was there with someone that I knew.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And what do you think that, I mean, being married for almost 50 years now, that's a pretty amazing thing. What do you think it is that makes your, what is it about your relationship that has made it work for so many years?
Let me think. Lots of things, really. We like each other a whole lot.
Okay.
I mean, I honestly, I think that helps a lot. We like the same things. I think that's basically it. That's a big thing. It sounds kind of simple, but that is a big thing.
And what's one thing about Dad that you really love?
I love a lot of things about him. He's a good listener, usually.
You guys raised 4 daughters.
4 daughters, and I just read the other day that having all 4 of the same sex is 1 in 8 chance of that.
Okay.
The best odds are having 3 of one and 1 of the other for some reason, not having 2 and 2. If you have 4, you know.
Huh, okay.
So yeah.
Interesting. Did you plan on having 4 kids? So was that something that you said, boy, when we get married, we're going to have a big family?
Actually, before we were married, we did talk about having a big family.
Okay.
And of course, as you start having the children and as reality starts to sink in, you decide that maybe such a large family is not a good idea. And the 4th child, Jennifer, was unplanned for. Mm-hmm. And also, of course, once we found out she was expecting, of course, I was expecting a boy for sure.
Yeah.
I said, gotta be a boy,
Yeah.
gotta be a boy. But I got over it.
Okay. Was that hard? I mean, what is, as a dad, I mean, having all girls, was that a difficult thing?
I don't know that it's difficult. And I wonder what I did miss not having a son.
Sure.
I went through my life without having a father, basically. Even when my father was there, I can't remember him being much of a father or doing much with us kids, you know.
Right.
So I learned how to be a father, I guess, on my own.
Okay.
I guess we kind of flew by the seat of our pants, you know.
Okay.
But I don't know whether I would really miss having a son. I don't know. It's a good question.
Okay. Well, tell me about your daughter. So why don't you start with the oldest and tell me about your 4 girls.
Well, there's Laura is the oldest one, and she lives in Canton, has 3 daughters, and is married to John. And then there's you, next one, and you have 2 daughters and a son. I think you had the first grandson. Was Jack the first grandson?
First in 30 years. First boy in the family in 30 years.
Yeah, the first boy in the family in 30 years, yeah. And then next out is Debbie, who lives also in Chelsea, and she has 2 boys and a girl, and there's Todd is her husband. And then Jennifer, who lives in Livonia, and she has 1 girl and 1 boy. There's 11 grandchildren now. And I think that's probably, that's where we're topping off. I'm pretty sure, unless something really extraordinary happens, I don't expect that, but I suppose it always could.
Don't look at me.
No. Well, I don't know. One of you might go to Africa, you know, and adopt someone.
Okay.
I don't think that's going to happen, though.
Probably not. What's something that you think that really helped our family to be so? It's a wonderful family, and it has been through the years.
So
Yeah.
cohesive.
Yeah. Why do you think? What's something that you think you and Mom did as we were kids that helped us to be such a strong family?
You mean just the 6 of us, the core family?
the core family,
The
yeah.
core family? Well, I suppose the thing that comes to my mind, of course, the simple thing, is that we always had dinner together.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of simple, but it's kind of important too. And it was during this time when we we talked to each other. And I always tried to inspire a conversation. Didn't always work, but I did try so we could talk about not only what you did that day at school, that was important too, but about issues in the world. Okay. Yeah, and that was one of the things we did. And then, of course, everybody had a job. I think that it's good to involve everyone in the upkeep and the good, the well-being of the home. Mm-hmm. So you all had jobs, and I had the spanking power, which I didn't use, but I threatened it.
That was it. It was the threat of it that more than anything else, right?
Yeah. Well, I think there's got to be some discipline. Okay. I think there has to be. I think children want some discipline. They want some regularity in their lives, and of course they want to feel safe, and they want to feel that we're there for them, which we always were. I think. I came home most times after work.
Yep, you sure did. In fact, I always wondered about that, how you did learn how to be a good parent when you did certainly have some challenges growing up and you really didn't have a dad to model after. So that was something that I always wondered how you were able to do that.
I don't know. I never read any books about being a father. Okay. I think it's just, for me, it was just something that was natural. You have this child, you have this responsibility, you love this child, and you want to do what's right for them. It's almost as if, how else would you do it? Okay. That's the way I feel about it.
Okay. All right. Of course, we had our moments too. I remember at least a few times as a teenager butting heads with you, both of us being rather stubborn people. But I think that overall, you and Mom and then the four of us girls at the time growing up in Southfield had a wonderful, wonderful childhood. You lived in that house in Southfield for how many years?
We were there for 34 years. Okay.
Then you moved from there right here to Chelsea. What made you and Mom decide to get up and leave Southfield, and why did you pick Chelsea?
We're following you kids. Okay. and there was no objections from you, so we came. Oh. But no, it was time. I retired, mm-hmm. And a couple of years after I retired, Mother retired, and we knew we wanted to leave Southfield. We'd been there long enough, and we wanted another. Most people move every 7 years, I hear. We were there an extraordinarily long time. But we thought Chelsea would be a wonderful place to live, and it is a wonderful place to live. And we looked at other towns around here like Stockbridge and Grass Lake and Manchester, We looked at all those towns. And we ended up here just by chance, okay. I guess you could say. We were driving through this neighborhood looking at another house, and they were building this one. Okay. And Mother ran into the backyard, and she came back. She says, "There's a lake back there." Oh. That was it. We bought the house, okay. Even though we don't own the lake, but yeah.
Well, see, Debbie and I had a campaign to get you and Mom to come here, so it was in our minds very, very planned out on our part. So we were high-fiving each other when you guys decided to move here. So we're very grateful for that.
It's a conspiracy, eh?
Yeah. It pretty much was a conspiracy.
But we never really considered living anywhere but Michigan. Well, our family is here, and that's what really the big reason why we never moved. And so far, the winters are not that horrible to me. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't. I've been in Florida 6 times now or whatever, and I wouldn't move to Florida. Okay. No way.
Yeah. No, me neither. It's a fine place to visit, but I want to live right here in Michigan too. Let's just talk briefly about your time in the Coast Guard. What are any stories that stand out that you remember about your time there?
Well, nothing terribly dramatic happened when I was in the Coast Guard. Boot camp was in Cape May, New Jersey, which is an old resort town there on the ocean. Okay. And it was very nice there. And I really look with great fondness for that 6 months I spent in the Coast Guard. It was.
What year was that about?
This was 1959. Okay. I'd already started my apprenticeship, and I took a leave of absence to go in the Coast Guard. At that time, I was still eligible for the draft. The draft was in effect. And all my advisors, the older people, were all telling me, "You don't want to get drafted in the Army. You don't want to do that." Okay. So it was either the National Guard or the Coast Guard had a 6 months program. 6 months of active duty and then 7.5 years of reserve time. Okay. which meant meetings in Detroit and then 2 weeks in the summer at active duty somewhere. So anyway, yeah, so we went there, and then the other half of my time was spent in Groton, Connecticut, which was also very beautiful. And overall, it was a very good experience. It's like going to a resort in a way where you're forced to be healthy.
Okay.
Yeah, you exercise, you eat well, you get up early. Looking back on it, it was a very good experience.
Cool.
And of course, it was all a competition there, from one company to the other. And the great reward was getting time off, or liberty.
Okay.
So we had a very good company because we were organized by a few guys who had already been through college, a little older than us, and a little more motivated
Okay.
to get out of there
Right.
as many times as they could. So they organized us, and we set a record for the number of times we won Liberty.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where did you go when you won Liberty? Where would you go to?
Well, if we had enough time, we'd go to New York City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's where, I was a pretty young kid, and you learn a few things in New York.
Sure.
Like, you learn about the working ladies.
Okay. Okay.
Go to the bar, and for some reason, some ladies are really interested in you,
Wait, how old were you then when you were in the Coast Guard?
18.
Oh, young. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, the step number one is they come over and want you to buy them a drink,
Okay.
But I was interested in meeting girls, all right, but not them.
Okay.
Not them, afraid. I was deathly afraid of them, to tell you the truth. As attractive as they were, and as forward as they were, yeah.
And you were getting love letters from Rita Vell at the
Love
time.
letter every day from Rita. It was lovely. Mail time, that was the best time of the day. Mail call, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Have you faced any, in addition to growing up in some difficult circumstances, have you faced any other challenges in your life?
Well, medical challenges, yeah, physical challenges that way. I have some good ones, Crohn's disease, and another one, a big word, ankylosing spondylitis, which is it's a kind of a rheumatism that affects the spine, and it's fused the bones in my neck, so I can't turn my neck real well. But I have some doctors who are doing well by me, and in some ways I'm very healthy, despite these diseases. But the Crohn's disease I had most of my life. Started when I was about 20 years old.
For people who don't know, can you just give us a basic overview of what Crohn's is?
Well, they're not sure what causes it, and so there is no absolute cure right now, but it's thought to be some kind of a disorder in the immune system where the body attacks itself and causes inflammation and causes a lot of problems in the lining of the intestine, which can eventually destroy the intestine, and you end up having surgery. And most Crohn's patients, they have an average of 3 surgeries during their life, and I've had 2. I just had one last August. But since then, I felt pretty good. Pretty good.
What are some things that you do to attack this symptom? So what are some things that you do to help you to feel better?
Well, of course, I take prescribed medicines. Other than that, there really isn't anything you can do. It's the kind of disease where it gets worse and gets better for seemingly no reason. Some people at one time thought it maybe was the mind-body connection, that it had something to do with your psyche, but they have no proof of that either. Although, if I am especially nervous about something, the symptoms do get worse.
Interesting. All right. So there's no cure, but there are things, different things that are being invented all the time to be able to deal with the symptoms?
Yes. They have some new things now called biologic drugs. And they're called anti-TNF drugs, tumor necrosis factor, and they're made from living cells rather than from chemicals, which is why they're so different. This thing I'm taking now is made from the ovaries of Chinese hamsters. True.
It isn't.
Yes, it is. I read that. I can show you. Yes, Chinese hamsters, of course, not Spanish hamsters or anything like that, but the ovaries, yeah.
Okay.
Somehow they synthesize it from that.
Okay.
And it interacts with your immune system. is what it does. But luckily, and because the arthritis I have and the Crohn's disease is related to each other, the one drug is subscribed for both of those conditions, which I suppose is a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just started using that, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, cool. They say, I heard somebody say, actually it was Tina Patterson, the head of the Chelsea Senior Center, said that Chelsea has become this mecca for senior citizens. They call it the Miami of Michigan. Do you think this is a good place for senior citizens to be, being a senior citizen yourself?
Oh, I absolutely think it's a good place for senior citizens to be, and I think that a community is, in a way, lucky to have the senior citizens. I think so, anyway. I mean, for one thing, they bring a bunch of money with them usually. All the money they've accumulated all their lives, they bring it along with them. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful. I think it's a wonderful town. It's a little something. In some ways, it's almost kind of like a little Hollywood set. You know, all right, let's build a little American town, and sure enough, here it turns out to look like Chelsea.
Okay.
And I know that son-in-law Todd has said, he said that mowing the lawn and whistling is mandatory in Chelsea. You have to whistle while you mow the lawn.
I believe that.
And I don't know, it's quite perfect, I suppose. I suppose it's not. I suppose some people might find that it's not, but I think it is.
I think so too. Well, this has been really fun talking with you, Dad. I appreciate it. I also appreciate my fine upbringing. I love you, and I'll see you around town.
Love you too.